Welcome to our series, Moving America Forward. Each week we'll be focusing on America's entrepreneurs as they take us to new roads, new opportunities, new ways to fill the gaps left by today's failing companies. Our series will be looking at that and a lot more. So come with me and watch as the entrepreneurs of our nation move into the future.
And I'm Doug Llewellyn here in our studios in Los Angeles with our guest today, who is the president and the CEO of a company called SkyPort IT, which is headquartered in Rochester, New York. You're going to find this a fascinating story. I'd like you to meet our guest now. His name is Daniel Marcellus. And Daniel, your company really deals in the area of cyber crime. And I know you focus heavily on companies, medical facilities really, that deal heavily with protected health information. What you do is amazing, and we're going to get into that in depth in a moment. But first, before we do that, a little while ago you had a chance to answer some questions from William Shatner. Let's take a look at a brief portion of that and see how it went. Okay? Please watch.
I know you've been successful in your business, but what I would like to hear is just a brief capsule of exactly what it is you do and who do you do it for, and how do you see this helping America to move forward?
Mr. Shatner, criminals are constantly finding ways to steal our data, our identity, and sensitive information, which is cause for great concern for companies across the nation, especially in the healthcare arena. What we do is work with companies and organizations to ensure their information is safe, secure, and their employees are educated of potential threats. That, Mr. Shatner, is how we are helping to move America forward.
You know, this is a fascinating subject, cybercrime. We hear so much about it these days, but you really deal in a very specific kind of niche area. As I understand it, you focus primarily on surgical suites for doing surgery on folks. Is that the prime area that you're dealing with?
Surgical centers are the focus that we have. They're at a high risk because of their regulatory requirements, and because the information they hold is quite valuable to the criminal element.
Well, let's talk about how cybercrime affects facilities like that. Number one, why are they more vulnerable than other kinds of companies or facilities?
It's really the worth of the data and how the different ways you can get at that data, from whether it is electronically from the cyber criminal typical that people think of in a dark room with a glow of a monitor at their face.
Right.
But what they're really looking at is there's also a piece that is the social engineering part, where people can actually walk into organizations and walk out with personal information of people who have had surgeries or any type of medical work done.
Well, let's get into this, because we hear of how cybercrime has hit companies, you know, large department stores or companies that sell merchandise online. And you hear about, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of folks' computer cards, or rather, you know, credit cards being exposed, and their credit card numbers being obtained by these cybercrime rings. What makes health facilities more vulnerable, and why is it more serious for them than it would be for a company that doesn't deal in healthcare?
Well, again, the value of the information. So credit cards are typically, can have a value up to about $20 a record. Whereas with healthcare, up to $50 a record. Any particular surgical center may have hundreds of thousands of these records in their system.
Right.
And given that value, it is a target.
And that's because of the amount of information that's contained in their health record?
And its value.
I mean, it includes insurance companies' names and the credit cards, all of that.
Exactly. So imagine someone gets this information and actually starts using it to submit false insurance claims.
Right.
They're getting income from insurance companies thinking that, you know, this is really our customer because it has this history, and they're utilizing that to do the fraud.
And the big issue is that this information is highly protected. It's governed under the HIPAA laws.
Correct.
Issued by the government. And that HIPAA law act, that was called the Health Information Protection Act. And the companies that have the information get fined if it gets away from them. And they're big fines.
Very big fines. It's all based on how serious the issue was
The breach,
the
right?
breach,
Right.
but it's really more based on neglect. If the people were very neglectful, they will get a very, very big fine.
It could be as steep as
$50,000 a record. That is for each person that got breached, not just all of their records. Each one
Right.
is worth about $50,000.
wow. And when you think an organization might have 25,000 patients, the records are, or more, even more,
it could
at
be huge.
50,000 a clip, that could be a huge fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you do. How do you help these companies?
Well, the idea is behind, you need to create I guess, a multi-layered approach to the security. From the outside, you have many layers, not unlike if you're going up to the Antarctic, you want to have layers of protection to keep you alive.
Right.
That's basically what we want to do here, is create several layers of protection that keep the ability for criminals to do this type of thing, whether it's from spam coming in that is to fish for information, or if it's for someone coming in the door that says, oh, I'm your IT company, we're going to fix your computer network, and it turns out they have nothing to do with their IT company. They're just there to steal the information.
Well, as I understand it, you do a test on companies their executives know it's going to happen,
Yes.
but the employees don't. Tell me how that works.
Well, I can give you an example of a very simple test that's actually in a book that's coming out in January.
Go ahead. That's all right.
Basically, what they're doing is, the idea is to get information out of someone unknowingly,
Right.
or they're just trying to be nice. Perfect example would be, you call the front desk of a surgery center. It's the first person you would usually get to, the gatekeeper, the receptionist, whoever. And what you do is you might call up and say, we're across the street at such and such building, and we are having an issue with our computer system. Our computer guys aren't available. Who do you guys use for your IT? If that person hasn't been trained properly, what they'll do is say, oh, we use such and such company. They're great. Go ahead and use them. They do a great job for us.
Right.
At that moment, you have given a piece of information that allows someone to do a lot of interesting things. One is to go to that IT's website, get their logo, create a badge, all these things that start helping to provide a means of trust when someone comes to the door to that receptionist. So the idea is to create a sense of trust, and a lot of people just want to be nice. They want to be liked. They don't want to cause a problem, and what they'll do is just let people in.
In other words, when this person shows up, they don't question them. They don't ask for ID.
No.
They just let them in.
There's enough going on where it's just part of a normal day.
And what happens when they get into the facility? What does your testee, the guy,
Sure.
tester, I guess, what does he do?
Well, they go in without any really preconceived information about the customer.
Right.
So they're not given any heads up of a better way of doing things or whatever. It's a real test. So one of the easiest ways to get into a protected area is through someone's coattails. You time it where you follow behind someone, and it's natural for that person in front of you to, oh, let me hold the door
In
for
other words,
you.
they sit in the
I'll let
waiting
them
room,
in.
watch somebody about to go inside, and then they get up and scurry in behind them.
You're exactly right.
And then they're free to roam around the company.
Right, because you've just created another sense of trust, because why would this person be in this restricted area
Right.
if they're not supposed to be there?
Right.
Right? So that's where they start going to real work, where they're actually going after information. So they don't have any passwords or anything. They don't know any of this information when they go in, just like a criminal would. So what we do is they go in, they'll sit down at a computer, they try to do something, they say, I need to work on this, do you have the password? Inevitably, they'll
The
give them the
employee
password.
next door will give them the password.
That's what happens. That's one level. And then the other level is the actual software that holds the information
Right.
for the health information. And what happens is, they say, well, I need to work on this particular part and make sure it prints properly or downloads properly. Can I get the password for this application? Sure enough, 75% of the time they'll get that information, and That's it.
And they
They've
can
gotten it.
oftentimes put a thumb drive in, download patients' records.
Correct.
And walk out with all of that information.
That
That's
is
the
correct.
test you do. It's interesting. What kind of reaction do you get from executives when they find that they've been hit like that, so to speak?
The interesting part about this process is we actually covertly videotape everything that's going on.
Right.
We have very small cameras that can look like a Bluetooth type scenario or something that goes in the pocket, which works quite well, so it documents what's going on. And when we show typically the raw footage first, we find that they are just kind of shaking their heads.
Well, you mentioned a book, a forthcoming book coming out. This is the book, which will be available by the time you see us. It's called Under Attack: How to Protect Your Business and Bank Accounts from Fast-Growing, Ultra-Motivated, and Highly Dangerous Cyber Crime Rings. And you contributed to this book.
Correct.
So it's very important, and this is the kind of service you provide to these companies. You do this primarily for surgical centers. Are most of them aware of how vulnerable they are and how serious this is?
I don't think so, because we've gone into several companies that are very professional, very good at what they do as far as the surgeries and stuff like this. They have policies in place, but there's always gaps in those policies or a lack of training of the employees to look for signs of what to look for when someone comes in the door if you've just never seen them before.
Well, I would think you really awaken their eyes to this, and you also point out little tips like, for example, don't let an employee charge their cell phone by plugging into the computer system. It opens their computer system up to attack, right?
It is a possibility, yes. Basically, many of the phones now can create a what they call a wireless hotspot. You plug it in, start charging. It just turns out that in certain situations you could actually infiltrate that phone and get to that computer.
Well, it's a fascinating business. You've been doing this now for some 20-odd years.
Yes.
This is another book that Daniel gives out to his employees, or not employees, but your clients.
Employees
to help
too.
our employees, to instruct them on
Yep.
what makes their company vulnerable to cyber attacks. So you're providing a real valuable service. Again, the company's name is SkyPort IT, and you're headquartered in Rochester, New York. Daniel, thank you so much for being here to tell us about it. Very worthwhile and very good information indeed.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Now it's my honor to present this prestigious award to Daniel Marcellus, the president and CEO of SkyPort IT of Rochester, New York, for the outstanding work that his firm is doing to help keep moving America forward. Daniel, it's a pleasure to give this to you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate the time and the effort into this. I must congratulate my staff for the fine work they do, and also the understanding of our customers who know we're really trying to help them and make their environment a safer one in their IT.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's it for another edition of Moving America Forward. I'm Bert Tenzer. Join us again as we continue to bring you the entrepreneurs who move America forward.
I'm William Shatner, and for all of us at Moving America Forward, thanks for watching.